Hello everyone, welcome to the first official theory video for Who Productions 2023. Hopefully you all enjoy this theory video I have about Mrs. Flood and who she can possibly be. But before she's hopefully revealed in future seasons of Doctor Who, which I think all happens starting from the 1950s episode of season 2 onwards. But anyway, before we start talking about Mrs. Flood, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already to the official Who Productions 2023 YouTube channel, where I have a new big project planned for the channel in the future, which will be revealed soon. So if you enjoyed today's video and want to keep seeing my content, subscribe. Now, let's dive into the theory. So we all met Mrs. Flood back on Christmas 2023 with the Church of Ruby Road, where up until the post-credit scene of the special, she came across at first glance as an innocent, sweet but feisty old lady who's neighbour to the absolutely fantastic Ruby Sunday and her family. Anyway, at the very end of the special, Mrs. Flood breaks the fourth wall and directly talks to us and says, "Never seen a TARDIS before," with a wink before we cut to the end credits, again which gives us an idea that Mrs. Flood is definitely not human, since she has knowledge of TARDISes and the ability to break the fourth wall easily and talk directly to us. That gives me an idea that Mrs. Flood is part of the pantheon of gods that we'll meet in the future seasons of the show. But as always, with a twist. So in the Empire of Death, Mrs. Flood gets dusted by Sutekh's gift of death, where she quietly says as she dies, "I had such plans," and referred to Cherry Sunday as a little woman, which to me strengthens the idea that Mrs. Flood could be a god who is weaker than Sutekh, but who is easily defeated by the god of death. Naturally, since Sutekh is currently the only god of the pantheon of Discord who has the power to destroy the entire universe that was seen in the Empire of Death. But during the climax of that episode, Mrs. Flood is restored along with every living thing in the universe by the Doctor who dragged Sutekh through the vortex, bringing them everywhere the TARDIS has ever landed throughout time and space, bringing death to death, as Ncuti says in the episode. To all these places, restoring life, with Mrs. Flood saying, "That clever boy," so we know that Mrs. Flood somehow knows the Doctor, but with him not knowing or recognising her when he passes Mrs. Flood in Church of Ruby Road. So at the very end of the finale of season 1, Mrs. Flood is standing on the rooftop of her own home, with a packed bag with interesting labels and stickers from various places that could hint to that Mrs. Flood can somehow travel in time. And she gives us a cryptic but sinister warning to us that the Doctor's story ends in absolute terror, which means that Mrs. Flood will be at that specific event witnessing or even being a part of that event in the future. So what we can break down from this is Mrs. Flood is almost like a storyteller to a degree, since she narrates the ending where she's standing on the roof of her home, but also narrating the end in Ruby's personal story. So initially she could be just like a god-like narrator for following the Doctor's own personal adventures and story, and his companion's story, but for RTD that's a bit too easy for Mrs. Flood to be a narrator for this era. I've also seen from other theory videos about Mrs. Flood's identity that she could be Anita from the Sandringham Hotel, who we met in Joy to the World, who with recommendation from the Doctor that she gets employed to work in the Time Hotel itself, which has doors to various points in Earth's history, and people have theorised that Anita could be Mrs. Flood, using the doors in the Time Hotel to travel back to Christmas 2023 to finally see the Doctor again. since she hasn't seen him since that whole year the Doctor spent at the Sandringham Hotel with her, and to convince Ruby to join him at the end of the Church of Ruby Road, since her and the Doctor talked about Ruby during that whole year in Joy to the World. But I don't think Anita is Mrs. Flood at all, because Anita in the recent Christmas special hasn't done what Mrs. Flood has, which is talked directly to us, and hasn't narrated over the Doctor's personal story in the special. Now, this could go one of two ways. Either I'm right and that Anita is just a normal human character who got luckier spending the whole year with the Doctor and becoming good friends, where he decides, as a gift from him to her, to work at the Time Hotel, where they could potentially meet again. Or I could be totally wrong, and there could be a twist where in a future episode it's revealed that Anita is Mrs. Flood, and she's being who hid her true identity away up until that encounter with the Doctor and decided to try and find him again. Now, this is all a theory, so it's 50-50 whether I'm right or wrong, but I do truly think Mrs. Flood is one of the gods that have found their way into the universe after the events of the Giggle to cause havoc and chaos across time and space. And Mrs. Flood is now in Season 2 with the snippet from the Season 2 teaser trailer featuring Mrs. Flood in 1950. Now, going to follow the Doctor and his new companion Belinda Chandra, and maybe even sabotaging the TARDIS so that Mrs. Flood could possibly come face to face with the Doctor and put her plans finally into motion, whatever plans that might be. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think Mrs. Flood is one of the gods that have broken into the universe, or is Mrs. Flood just a normal human being who could be Anita trying to find the Doctor again? Leave your comments down below. I'll see you in the next video, or a possible audio drama like series. Goodbye.